Hello, everyone. My name is Justin. Those who like me, please feel free to subscribe and share and comment. Or you can go to my Patreon and support me. But this is totally insane. Last week, and this is before the mass firings of Twitter, Twitter suspended me for saying it's impossible to change biological sex. A man can't become a woman, nor can a woman become a man. And I said, it's just mental illness just to say it so. So anyway, I was reported for violence against certain communities, and that is not violence. Me stating a biological fact: men can't become women, women can't become men. No matter how people think or feel, you cannot make those changes. And just because I disagree with you does not mean I am threatening violence against you. I may be saying something you don't like, but we have freedom of speech in America, and I'm not in favor of the thought police. Because basically what communism or what Marxism decides to do, they'll give a group a victim identity, and then you have to walk on eggshells around people of this group because anything and everything will offend them. Which, but if you're that fragile, something's wrong with the person for being that fragile. Regardless of what I think, if you have to have what you're doing validated by every person and every stranger in the world, that means you really aren't that secure about your position. Meaning the person who maybe feels like a woman, the man who feels like a woman, but knows he isn't a woman. In order for him to really live out that fantasy, everyone else has to validate that he's a woman. Because if people tell him the truth, it falls apart. And I would say the same for a woman who feels like a man. You're not. And you're basically wanting to drag people into your fantasy, and it requires 100% cooperation with the fantasy, or else it falls apart if everybody tells you the truth. You know, the vast majority of people don't want to be transgender. So no matter what you've done to yourself, you have not changed your sex. And if I'm being completely honest, whether they're straight or they're gay, most people are not sexually attracted to transgenders. Some are. So by going through this transition, you may be lowering your number of sex partners. And that's something that people should tell trans people the truth. This is something that may impact your life in many negative ways. You may have health problems because of this. And not only the health problems, the people you can potentially date, the dating pool has gotten a lot lower. And before the current gender ideology craze, trans people had extreme discrimination in employment. They often worked, if they worked at the very fringe of society, certain underground nightclubs, prostitution, drug dealing, things like that, which, yes, is terrible to banish people to the edge of society. But it is also terrible to make your coworkers and your classmates go along with your fantasy. Like, you still haven't changed sex. So if you have to fall apart and like call one of your coworkers or one of your classmates at a university transphobic because they quote unquote misgendered you, that means your sense of what you're doing is so fragile and so dependent upon other people that you need 100% validation from everyone, but that validation would have very negative effects on other people and on society as a whole. Because everybody else knows that you haven't changed your biological sex, and you're basically encouraging people to lie to fill out your fantasy, which is bad. Other people shouldn't have to lie to accommodate what's going on in your mind. I'm not saying you should be discriminated against in employment or education because, yes, it's horrible. But if you're going to quote unquote transition, you can't force everybody to call you the pronouns you want to. You just can't. And I think it's time for everybody to say, yes, we don't have to participate in gender ideology. Hello, person out there watching my live stream. We don't have to participate in your ideology. We just don't. And I actually think that the child transition movement that happens because you have teachers and other adults who really, especially people in the medical profession and psychiatric professions, want to make a lot of money off this. They're encouraging childish fantasies, childhood fantasies, because I think his name was this person's name. Her name was Scott Angel. She was interviewed by Matt Walsh. Said that Pharmaceutical companies will make $1.3 million in a lifetime of someone who's had transgender procedures. And that's not counting the amount of money that probably the mental health profession made because they're going to have therapy sessions and things like that, social services and things like that. There's a whole money making infrastructure around this that wants people to lie and put up with a delusion of saying someone has changed their sex when they can look at the person and tell the person is not the sex that they are claiming. They may have cut off body parts, they may have mutilated themselves, but they have not changed their sex, and nobody else is required to support your delusion. That is not hate speech. Telling the truth and keeping it real is not hate. It's the truth. And the truth really ends. The truth really ends a lot of stuff, including this current fad of transgender ideology. The truth is ending that with those lawsuits that detransitioners like Chloe Cole have launched against Kaiser Permanente. As hospitals, schools, social service agencies have to pay out lots of money, no one will want to partake in these transitions for children or for adults because you have some adults are suing their psychologists for signing off on this because basically they weren't in their right minds and the therapist signed off on this and now they're mutilated for life and they're disabled for life and have all these medical conditions because a therapist would not encourage him to face the truth or force him to face the truth. The therapist took advantage of their mental illness and their delusion and directed them to people who mutilated them because they could make a lot of money off it. But yeah, everyone has to tell the truth. And later on today, my Twitter suspension is over, and I'll be back tweeting the truth on Twitter. Goodbye for now. For everyone who likes my video, please subscribe and share. Subscribe and share. And as always, we should all tell the truth. And it's always no, you can't change sex. Goodbye.